and welcome to another episode of Soul Vibes. And my name is Alexis Sersha, and I would like to welcome each and every one of you to this episode, which is number 22. So we've been going for quite a few months with our episodes. With this program, and it's there are some for those of you who are new or perhaps watching later, it's kind of like just sharing and feeling and going deeply into all sorts of things that we experience to do with the soul, to do with soul living and living within, just one sec, and living within, this life that is filled with our soul, that is basically soul-filled life, and all of the different things that this brings to us, that this means for us, that it, what it includes, what it is, what it isn't, like how different it really is to what, we've imagined and what we sort of thought before when we actually started to really get in touch with our own soul. And each one of us, mostly people that actually do, get attracted to this to these meetings, are people who actually have felt and are feeling the soul, and you have felt the power and the power of your soul within your life, and the power of what it means. And we had such different ideas, and we have such different words as to what it means, what it is, what it isn't, and how it can affect us, and how it can affect all of those around us. And now we're pretty much doing what we came to do, which is living the soul-filled life, which sometimes it is easy, but sometimes it is not that easy. And even once we've integrated our shadow, once we've walked that dark valley and of all of the, where we sort of dive deeply into our own darkness, our own spaces that are not filled with life, we also we also got in touch with some parts of ourselves that we perhaps didn't like, and it took a while to sort of integrate. And then now we realize that we can actually utilize, and we can all of those parts that we used to push away are actually helping us incredibly within this life that is, as I said, at times challenging, and at times so beautiful. And mainly it is actually both at this very same time. And so when when there are certain consequences and things, that are part of this, that one of the things that came to mind, and one of the things that has really been playing around in the last couple of months, or perhaps this year for me, is actually the relationships, the personal, all sorts of relationships, whether it's personal relationships, whether it's relationships with, with friends, personal and meaning a partner, the relationships with friends, with family, with the public, when you go to the shop. Perhaps some of you have jobs and all sorts of things, or when you're doing your own business, or within your group, your tribe, your spiritual community. We have this we kind of get faced with the effect that we have on us. So basically, divinity, the soul, really has enabled us, like inviting and feeling our soul, has enabled us to really come into our own self, to come into to be in touch with who we really are, that deep, authentic part, that deep truth of who we really are. And these are just words, but I invite you to feel deeply your truth, to feel that space where you connect with yourself, with that sacred, incredible space where you feel yourself home, where you feel yourself safe, where you feel yourself welcomed. And that space is a space of incredible, well, full 100% truth. It is the space where you then, as a full-on, embodied person, and it doesn't mean that you have to 100% have it all together or whatever, because life isn't about that. It's not about having it all together. It's about how you handle different situations. But when you live from that truth, you notice that you actually then operate from that space, and you kind of judge or evaluate everything from that space, from that incredible space of truth, of your authenticity. And you can then feel how, whether whatever that you're interacting with, or the person that you're interacting with, or whether it is a group of people, or whether it is something that, that when you listen to media, or you watch a movie, or something's happening in your life, or the society, or whatever, basically the judgment in that space is it taking you away from that space? Or is it bringing you and allowing you to be, bringing you back to it, or allowing you to comfortably live within that space? And I find that I've become incredibly and acutely aware of whether I am connected to, and it's not that you can really be disconnected in the true sense, but my focus, my attention, or where I actually operate from, can be either from that space, or it can be, moved or shifted to something else. And that also means that it can be so fine, and can happen so quickly, and if it happens, you sometimes even don't notice it, especially sometimes if it happens slowly by slowly, like a trickle of water. All of a sudden you realize, wow, I haven't really been home for a few days. In the past it happens for a few months, and I mean in that home space inside of myself. And so now I'm really very aware whether something is taking me away, or whether something is bringing me back, or allowing me just to in a relaxed way, just to hang out there without having to fight, or struggle with that, with energetically. And with that comes, when I feel very quickly if someone is trying to overpower me, or if someone is trying to dislodge me from within my own sovereign space, from the place of power, the place of where I am the king and the queen of my own sovereign space. And for someone, perhaps you don't like this kind of terms, but what I mean by that is that I am the boss of my own space. I am the boss of my own opinions, of my own values, of my own truth, of my own, everything, judgments, all of these kind of things, decisions, and all of these kind of things. And yet we live in a world, in a life where we are surrounded by everything is trying to dislodge us from that space and insert itself onto those, kingdom and queendom space where you belong, meaning that they try to take that authority, your inner authority. And basically each one of us, because we come from the 3D, it is how, as you know, this is how the 3D operates. And so for some of us, when we first started coming home, for some of us was a full-on experience. For some of us, it's a much more gradual, and all of a sudden you realize that on the inside of yourself, you are home. And that was after all of that, walking through that shadow of darkness, or sorry, valley of darkness, meaning that looking at all of the toxic things that we had inside and all of the things that were unaccepted, unloved, all of the things, parts of ourselves that lived in that darkness. And so when we've cleared that, on the other side, basically, is this simplicity of authentic self, which really just means being at home in yourself, being in touch with your true self in that now moment. And that's where the soul lives, your soul, your divinity. You can become, you are very then aware of all of these parts of yourself. And then from this space, then you keep expanding more into who you are. So you keep discovering, you keep playing. And then that also then reflects your own, the physical world that is part of all of the, your own life, your physical life. And so once we are in this space, and we are in touch with the soul, the divinity, which really in many ways just means that we're in touch with a part of ourselves which makes us magical, because it enables us to deal with things of life, to overcome things, to go through them, to accept, to it brings with it that unconditional love. And so it raises your vibration. Let's say, for, people have different terms for this. And so within this then risen vibratory state, and because you live then in your own truth, in your own authenticity, and you blossom or unfold out of that truth, and then your life reflects that truth, and then you basically you will go out into the world, within the people, amongst your peers, wherever, your family and all of the people that perhaps are still sleepwalking, and you are constantly triggering them just by the mere presence of you, because your light, this clarity, this being at homeness is shining everything within other people. So you in some ways are reflecting back to them, or you in your presence they become really acutely aware of their things. And we, each one of us, we knew all of these things, we know these things, we've heard them before, but it is one thing to kind of know it in the theory, and then you live it. And then there is another space also where then we keep going deeper and deeper with this. And it is also one of these things, for example, let's say relationships with others, that can actually be quite a problem, issue rather. I won't say a problem, but an issue, because we live within the world of humanity, and as much as we are absolutely able and capable, incredibly independent and capable, and also need that time for ourselves, we also do need that time with others, to connect. And just, if you go on the street, if you go to the shops, to the market, to as I said, places where, whether you're doing business or whether you're in school, or your job, or whatever that you're doing, places where you do have to interact with people, you do trigger them. You find that you trigger them, and to actually then continually experience that, it can actually, for some people, put them back into perhaps, feeling despondent, or a bit of a depression, or things like that, because you think you constantly have to work out, well, how am I going to be in this world? How am I in this world? Who am I with? Who can I come close with? And because you're so open, and you are in such a beautiful intimacy with yourself, you also would like to naturally experience this kind of intimacy with others as well, you know, that with friends, with acquaintances, with your neighbors, with whomever. And so there is this realization over and over again at the next level, is to just, you know, how much you have to keep coming back into that space of clarity, of your own safe space, of your own home, because that is where you you find that support, and you that complete and regular, and support that is always there, and also support that is unflinching, fearless, and that is fully accepting of yourself. And that kind of stuff you never really find out there. And that can be, there can be a bit of sadness and grief as well, because as humans, you know, we are also the social creature. And to realize, to continually on the next and, you know, next level, to have to come back to this, you know, your own feeling of self, that you realize, wow, I am that person that will always, this deeper self that will always have to support myself. And then you realize constantly it just keeps falling away. You know, when you realize, okay, so this is where I thought other people will support me, partner will be here for me, or, you know, a husband, a wife, children, parents, whomever. And yet you realize more and more you have to keep coming back deeper and deeper and deeper into your own self in this way, into, you know, that you are your own support. And it is a very physical, but it's a very etheric feeling when you keep having to keep letting go of these layers of basically untruth. You know, untruth was that wasn't true, that others will support us in this way. It was an illusion. It was a story, you know, and things like that. So you basically constantly going down into your own deeper and deeper truth, and into your own authentic self. And then with others, you, because, you know, just your mere presence triggers them. Your mere presence then shines. The deeper you know, the more clear you are with yourself, the more you actually then shine to others as to what they're not doing within themselves. And then there is this realization to do with others, that some people truly are not going to be choosing, you know, divinity integration to expand. Some people are very happy within that space that they're in, but then you realize and see how that space, that 3D, is so manipulative, toxic, based on lies, based on deceptions, you know, based on all of these things. And so these are some of the truths that are not, you know, that easy to kind of really process, but because you have to do it on a continual basis as you realize more and more, you know. And then when your idols fall, you know, when people that perhaps you looked up to, or, you know, for example, just recently I watched like an old movie, in old meaning like from the 80s or 90s or something like that. And I remembered how I looked up to and admired certain things that were in that movie. And then, you know, a couple of decades later, I realized, and others do realize, how damaging those things really were, you know. And yet it's just a trivial example, but it's kind of so true. Like, for example, you know, I watched a movie in when I was little, I was looking younger, I was looking up to the American culture, for example, and it doesn't matter which, but I remember this movie and I used to look up, you know, I thought, wow, these people are so incredible, because they were you know, the person was sitting down having this little TV on the desk and was eating and then was doing something else, and they had another TV in another room and just staring at a TV. Whatever they were doing, they were just staring in the screen, and this used to be thought of as something well off, rich or abundant. And yet now, I know that this is just a complete distraction. And so these are things like a trivial example, but there are so many these paradigms that keep collapsing and collapsing. And so as you are doing that within yourself also, this is what people that hang out with you, let's say they come in touch with you, they perceive these things. They all of a sudden, your light, your clarity shines, all of these things up, within their life. And many people are just not willing or unable yet, or choose not to see those kind of things. And so oftentimes, people will have a very strong reaction to you. Some people may like you instantly, but some other people, it will just be an automatic dislike. It will be an automatic, perhaps, that they feel certain strong emotions towards you. And that too, because you become so acutely aware of things, you notice these things, and even though people try to hide these things behind their kindness, behind their politeness, and all of those etiquettes, you actually can see other people's energy, other people's intentions, other people's emotional state, their feelings, all of these things is absolutely clear to you. And at times people they really feel seen, perhaps for the first time in their life. And because they're still carrying all of that, unprocessed stuff, all of their shadow, it is not very pleasant for them. It can be shocking. It can be all sorts of things that they are experiencing, And so as you're walking around with the people, this happens a lot, and you don't even have to say anything. It's just your presence, And for example, if you're working with people within the family, it can take quite a few years if you're stuck with people, so to speak. But to my amazement, I must say, like within my family, I've it's quite surprising how they've come around in a way that we can now accept each other, the differences, the religious differences, all sorts of differences. And also I've come to be very accepting of other people's and whatever their choices are. I used to not be like this. I used to still be able to see things, and I would go into that overdrive to come to help them because once you experience certain things and you can see how easy and relatively easy it is to transform, to alchemize things, then of course naturally you want to help others. But then you forget easily how that certain things are easy to you because you are allowing soul presence. It's that enables you to transform and alchemize and go into your own darkness, go into your own unconsciousness and face yourself. It's not because it's just as a human self, and it is then but it's the presence of the soul that enables you to do that, the divinity. And so, it's easy to forget that other people are just not there. It's easy to forget that other people, things are not clear to them. Things are, they can't see patterns. They can't see what is going on. They can't see the solutions. And they don't have this access to this space within that you have. that home, that incredible feeling of timelessness, of being endlessly enveloped, of being endlessly nourished, of being accepted just for who you are, without any pretense, without any masks. And this is that priceless, incredible vulnerability that it is priceless to be able to be so naked in front of yourself, and to also be able to be vulnerable in this way in front of other people as well. Because when you operate from this space, you operate from the place of truth, simplicity, and authenticity. And from that place, you don't really have things to hide, things to lie about, to pretend, to manipulate, to try to overpower others, because you're happy sitting. You already are a king and a queen. You are sitting on your own, in your own throne. There is no further achievement in this way that you would have to or competition, because each person has this space within them, so you can be very peaceful, very calm, but at the same time, this uncompromising nature can seem incredibly cruel to others and incredibly cold to others, because you're able to see other people and their games, and there are a lot of people walking around that thrive, and they live on manipulating others, and of in all doing things to others emotionally, to be able to suck their energy, to be able to be that energy vampire. And how does that, happen? You notice it so much with certain people. They try to, if you are home with self, they will try to knock you off that. It's because when you are emotionally upset and what's called psychologically dysregulated, in that emotional upset state, unhinged or off center, this is where they can plug in and suck your energy, that energy vampire. And so when you're walking around, you are very clear. And when you feel how, when that is happening and who's trying to do that, whatever their techniques are, you can see through their techniques. You can see their intentions. They may be dressed beautifully and look gorgeously beautiful, like a picture perfect or whatever. But you can see that darkness, that ugliness behind all of that. You can see through them, and you can see their intentions, because they are after other people's energy. And so when you feel coming off that yourself coming off that center, and you see that there is no hope, in a sense, for this person, that regardless of what you would say or do or anything, this person, perhaps they have no ability in this lifetime to go in home to self, or to start that process of realization or whatever, or they choose not to, whatever the reason is. When you realize there is no hope in this way, you can cut people in a complete cold way. Like, these people are out of your life, toot sweet, completely, and either you remove yourself, or do all of that, what they now call gray rock, and all of those kind of techniques, where this person has no more access to you. And this is just part of, because you become incredibly, 100% protective of this space within you, your sovereign space, your sovereign place of your own kingdom and queendom. You 100%, you know how to protect this space. You know how to protect your well-being. You know how to, you're vulnerable and open and kind and loving. If when other people, not if, it's not that you become rude in this sense or mean or you want them bad, absolutely not. It's because once you, if you were to go on that path of revenge, of course then your energy would change, it wouldn't be this love and light and kindness anymore. So you don't want that kind of conflict. But if the conflict arises, you will say your truth because you are fearless, because you have no fear in this way of other people, because you know how to transform, you know how to alchemize emotions, you know how to come back to self, you know how to accept unconditionally. So even if another person may say something that is wanting to be unkind or hurtful to you, to try to, let's say, manipulate, it doesn't work on you, or not, at least not for a long time, because whatever it is, whether it is the truth about you, and it can be an ugly truth, because all of us come from 3D, so we've all played completely in everything, and or from the past lives or whatever. But you know how to accept that. You know that you have that love, that you know how to feel love for all of those parts. So you are completely, people can't manipulate you in this way in any way, especially not for a long time. But if that's their modus operandi, if that's how they work, is that's how, you can't have them in your life. So in this way, it's kindness for both, for yourself and for another person, that you cut them very quickly. You just have no patience, no tolerance, and no time for this kind of thing. And very often, it's most often, it's just very quietly you do that. It's not that you have to have any conflict, precisely because you are protective in this way of your own inner space, of your own kindness, of your own vulnerability, of your own, this beautiful sovereign garden that is blossoming and blooming. And in that, there is no space for people that they're still unconscious, because they would trample, they would destroy, they would kill, they would shoot, they would wound, because there are a lot of people that are walking around are very damaging to other people. And this is one of those things, that coming from, especially if you have this kind of spiritual background, and we all go through that new age of love and kindness, which is very misinterpreted and misused, to manipulate, to control other people in this way. And you, in that space, many people, I meet still so many people in this space where they sort of think being kind and self-loving means that, oh, we just this fuzzy, quite sickly, we accept everyone and we just look at for best in others and all of that kind of stuff. But they misinterpret that. They misinterpret what it is to see best in others. I mean, to see best, to see that goodness and light in another, you realize that another person is a full-on souled being, that they are just as self-powerful, powerful in self, meaning that they have the abilities to realize, to come home to themselves, whether in this life or not others. They're not, no one less or more. But at the same time, you realize that, it may not, because it may not be their time. And you also are able to clearly see their destructive nature. And there is a lot of, within humanity, there is a lot of destruction. We can't kind of hide from that. We would like to, very many people when they're not awake and would like to do away from with that and pretend it doesn't exist. But if we are to live in a society, and this I don't know whether humanity will do that or not, but I'm talking about my own inner sovereign space and the rules within that space, that there is no space for looking at people in this way where I look at them and I don't see them for what they're actually at the moment doing. For example, let's say if you just go to the shop, if there was just this goodness of people, we wouldn't have to read all the labels on the food, what is called food, when it's actually poisons and all of these things, in the name of whatever. And we can say, oh, this can't be changed, or no one's fault. There is certain, it's not about fault. There are people that make those kind of decisions, and you can't say that these people are good people, so and there are many people that are just caught within that system, that and it's not about good or bad, it is about authenticity and truthfulness and self-love. And because we are walking and sharing the earth, with all of these different kinds of people. And once we are in this space of self-love, this self-love is incredibly tough in this way. There was a time in the past, for example, when I would look at some description, how, and this has to do with how certain things mimic so closely things of the soul, of the truth, of authenticity, of self-love, like, in the past. And I know someone would say, well, this self-love and this selfishness looks a lot like, for example, let's say narcissism, which is a very popular topic at the moment, meaning that there's enough light that people are actually really able to see and describe these things and what happens, and the relationships and families within these kind of toxic, relationship structures, whether it's coming from down the family line, or whether at work or whatever, or at the highest levels, with politics, people that run our health systems, all of these. There's so many toxic stuff. But like this self-love can often mimic, or you can look a bit like that, because you can be really cold in this way, what appears to be cold, when you let people go, letting people go, walking away, stopping contact. All of these kind of things can look a bit like, being that narcissism or whatever it is. But there is a huge difference, really, like with everything else, where things within the 3D or mass consciousness, whatever that you want to call it, mimic the real thing. Because self-love is uncompromising in this way, and it gives you that strength and fearlessness and courage that you do walk away from what to others are things you not supposed to walk away from, whether it is, your parents, partners, your children, all of these kind of things, you walk away because it's self-love, and it is a healthy self-love. And this is what I'm finding, that there, it's not a black and white. There are so many nuances in all of these, in all of these things. So I've mentioned, in some things I wrote on media and things like that, where it's so much to do. All of this has so much has to do, this life, about dancing, this artful dancing. It's art to be able to discern, what is of, because some things look close, mimic what is real, what is truthful, and what is, just mimicking that truth in anything and everything. Because there are so many, you can name any issue or what people think about, what a person philosophizes or talks, or anything throughout the history. You can actually, you have to navigate expertly through with art mastery, or as for those that work with me in this way, I call this a ninja. I call myself a ninja. And maybe because of Michael's sword thing, you put it down, as in that battle, and then you pick up your swords, all of them, again, but in a very different way. And it is not to battle, in a way, not battle self, not battle others, but it is to actually cut through all the bullshit and, all the BS and macchio and whatever it is. And it is very surprising at times which people actually come with the bullshit, very like on my path, I've been surprised as to who has actually supported me through something as other people, and who has actually not. And what I used to think were my friends, I realized that perhaps they weren't. And then, of course, seeing things from a bigger point of view, and also you realize each one is solid in a big picture. We're all just playing this game, so, but in an everyday picture, I use those swords a lot to cut through all the bullshit. And it's not even that I have to cut, on other people's behalf, unless of course they come and they want that, because it's really pointless to be trying to cut through all of the veils for someone who is not willing yet to be doing that work, because the work is hard. And also living in these things, I couldn't say it easy and hard are not really the right words, because living as a master, it is 100% asking for my abilities that I have and utilizing. Living with soul, it never is this walk in the park, in a sense that I become lazy inside, or whether, it's work in a sense, it's enjoyable work, but it is work in a sense that you always seeing, okay, is this truth, is this not, am I feeling, what am I feeling, am I feeling the truth and authentic, then applying the courage when you have to walk, where you say things because you just say them because they're your truth, then dealing with repercussions of what you've said, and stating your truth, living your truth, not falling for all of the lies that people live in, especially in places of business, of work, of things like that. It's all based on deception and lies and pretending. And it's fine also, because as a fun thing, because I know where I live on earth, and it's fine to sort of live with that. You come to peace and to terms, because otherwise I would have to hide myself somewhere in the mountains or whatever, away from people. But I want to participate in things. And if you want to participate, then these are things that you have to deal with. And it's great to sort of find this kind of balance, that you live in nature, in some more remote or whatever place, and to also have social things and activities and whatever have you, and to realize that, you know, most people are not awake in those spaces. And so there's all sorts of things happening, including that where you constantly trigger other people and they have very, very strong reactions to you. And so you become very, you know, if you didn't have self-confidence and self-worth in big quantities, it would be quite challenging. But you learn what your truth is and what your values are. And you're okay when people don't, you know, because those people can't include you in those circles, or you know, they just don't want to hang around much unless they're looking for help. Sometimes, you know, they don't want to hang around much around you, and that can actually be quite painful to accept, you know. And then you process and you alchemize, and then you can become okay with that as well, to kind of accept this role that you have in this world, which is not to be like a normal, I mean, normal average, I don't know what word to use in this way, but you are the person that walks in light, walks in your truth, and walks in your authenticity, fearless, courageous, you know, you walk your purpose. And at the same time, you know, you live in the simplicity of everything, because yet there's nothing to prove. There is nothing to, you know, you operate from a very, very different kind of, you know, space than other people do. And that, unfortunately, you know, makes big gap, big difference between you and others. And it's not only, you know, I'm talking, so mainly what I was talking about is non-spiritual, so-called spiritual circles, people that, you know, even though spiritual concepts are now pretty much in everything, you know, because they're very close. Spirituality and psychology and science, you know, they're very close, even though there's an artificial barrier made in between. But you know, in psychology, let's say clinical psychology, they use pretty much the same techniques. If someone wants to become well, you know, overcome their addictions and what have you, depression, all of the mental health, they have to use absolutely the same techniques that the spirituality also teaches. It is just they are, and I'm talking on both sides, the truthful ones, because the techniques are the same. If the person is, if we're really helping that person to get better, to get well, because to get well, you must come back home to self and stay there. That's pretty much the only way to be well. You know, even if people are not completely conscious and so clear on explaining this, but inside, if they experience it and maybe don't even have the words to explain it, that's that. And then of course you have the lie on both the spiritual and the, you know, the medical side, or non-spiritual, the so-called non-spiritual side, where, you know, people are on purpose kept unwell so that the industry keeps getting there, you know, keeps rolling. And that too is part of this world, and it's part of every, you know, of every industry or whatever that you want to call a particular trade or whatever have you. And so I talked about basically the non-spiritual, so-called non-spiritual people, but within the spiritual community, as we know, you know, there is also a lot of that fake positivity hiding and masking the inner toxicity the inner unwellness, the shadow or the unprocessed shadow. And that too, you know, is can be hard to accept, because it's like, you know, when you are not so aware, you may look up to certain people, and then, you know, as the light is, as the veils are coming from your eyes, you start to notice things, and certain people that you've put up there have fallen, you know, because there were that fake positivity and all of that. And again, here too comes that art, the dance of art, because all of us have come from the 3D, have worked through all of these things, have had all these traits and things that now I look back and I'm like, oh my God, was I really that? But that's where that unconditional acceptance and love comes, where we can accept all of that. And then you can realize that another person may be on the journey, you know, being that fake positivity is just a step on the way. It doesn't mean that's where they'll stay. And that's where that artful discernment and artful dance comes, to be able to be so precise and notice, is this person just on in that step, and they will they will do the next step and next step and next step and work through that, or are they actually choosing to stay there? But regardless, you know, for the time when they stay there, you may be walking away from them, because, you know, it is not really compatible for long periods of time to spend so much time with someone who is not awakened. Once you are at a certain level, percentage of soul integration, that, you know, it because in this way, there is a conflict between the two energies. You know, it is one that wants to take or dump, project their own darkness onto you, or take the energy. And there is one that is sovereign within themselves. And there are so many, you know, different things that you experience with other people within the society that have to do with exactly this dynamic. And so, you know, and also, you know, with other people, just seeing how you live from your truth, you live fearlessly, you do things that other people would not, you know, because maybe, you know, they have mortgages and they have the image to keep, and then they have all sorts of, you know, people do things for those kind of reasons. And then they see you and simplifying life, and, you know, doing what needs to be done to be to live within your own self-love, within your own truth, within your own peace, you know, this incredible inner peace, within your own health, and the decisions that you make out of that. And, you know, there can be a lot of people resentment, jealousy that they experience in relation to you, because they when they see this, if they hang out with you, let's say, you know, you go to a job or something, and they are not able to do that, or they don't have the courage, or whatever it is, that they're just not doing that. And until they start accepting soul, there are certain things they won't be able to do, you know, because you can't do them as a human within your mind only, in the world of your mind, you know. Then you actually do experience a lot of these kind of things from in a feeling from other people. It's not in a feeling. What I mean is that because you can see what other people experience and feel, what you're triggering within them. And so, it does require this, which luckily, luckily soul does give you this incredible confidence. But it's a different kind of confidence. It's just this incredible self-peace and acceptance and love that you can actually deal with these kind of things, because as a normal person, you just want to be accepted. You want to have some kind of standing within that world, but even that goes because you don't even play those hierarchical games anymore, because you're not in the power games. And so you don't really have a standing on the hierarchy of other people. And that too takes some courage to accept, because in some ways it can feel like I'm nobody, I'm nobody in this way, because you fall off, or all of that kind of world disintegrates with in relationship to others. So yeah, it is interesting for sure. It is interesting for sure. Like there's this constant development of all sorts of things, of all these kind of new realizations. I'm just going to have a bit of a drink. And I made some notes, just so I don't forget to speak about certain things. Yeah, so I think we're pretty much covered what I wanted to what we wanted to talk about today. And invitation is to feel these things deeply, to transform them, to accept what still needs to be accepted, and to accept again in a new way and in a new level your own being. This, for me, I call myself still spiritual warrior in this sense, that the decisiveness, like this beautiful martial arts master. You become this beautiful master, self-master, but also of all of these energies and issues and things and energetic movements and emotions, feelings. You become this incredible master within this world, not only of my own, but in relationship with others. Because you can look at yourself, you don't have to lie, you're so different in this way. You live your truth, you feel yourself, you're at home inside of yourself, and all of these things are so different to what majority of people are experiencing. In triggering all of these things is also, of course, then that positive side, because it means that people that maybe just brush you or touch you, or your energy touches others when you're walking down the street, you don't have to speak with them at all. You create changes just by being who you are, just by being at home, just by being self-loving. And I'm saying just, but this is huge, huge in this world that is all not this, all of it is exactly not this, except for, let's say, if we look at nature and the natural world, which is supporting us, and animals and things, but they too are living that authenticity. And all of the things that I mentioned today as well, and other times, there can be challenges. There are things to consider and come to terms with and process and, alchemize and all of these kind of things. But throughout that, I would invite you to feel this incredible sweet nectar of your soul self, of your wholeness, soul and human, all together in oneness. How sweet, how peaceful, how eternal, how pleasantly decadent, how this feels. And so, even though there are all of these things to resolve, that come with being a soul filled human, divine human, embodied human, how is nothing compared to living a soulless life, a separated, disconnected life? That is the real hell. But having all of these things that we deal with, and the challenges and the choices and all these things that we didn't consider, compared to like the disconnected life, it is nothing like that, because throughout everything, to feel, this is the ultimate human wish, isn't it? Like, and you can see it in stories, you can see it in the movies, in theater, in paintings, like this desire to feel at home in self, for the unconditional love, for basically support on tap whenever you want to feel support inside. Like, not that it's always flowing, but if you want to focus on it, just sit down and feel it. And it's like that, you feel it. To have this, to be in this space, it's immeasurable, it's priceless, it has no price in the whole universe to what we've actually accomplished in this way, what we've done, what we've achieved, what we, yeah, pretty much, we've done it. And so I would invite each one, whether you're watching this now or later, to kind of really feel that incredible appreciation for who you are, for what you're doing. And I can feel some saying, oh, but I'm not there yet, not quite. It matters not, you're on the way. There is a day, there is a time, there is a day, there is a minute, there is an hour when you actually can feel that. And you can feel when you do come home within yourself. And that is 100%, that moment is 100% within your life. And you just keep walking, and keep walking. And then one day, 1 hour comes, 1 minute, boom, and there it is. And you're like, wow, I'm home. And you just then keep practicing, because you have to initially, you have to keep working at it, keep practicing, breathing, and all of these kind of things that you come home. Of course, in a bigger picture, you've always been home, but there is definitely this human journey is not so much about that bigger picture. It is about the bigger picture, but it is all about these small, like these experiences. And this is why the soul self created these facets, human facets, to experience what it feels like to come home, what it feels like to be separated, to pretend to be separated, what it feels like then to feel whole, what it feels like to, all these different varieties of things that we can experience on living a human life. So in this way, human life is about the small things, it's not about constantly realizing, oh, but I am one with my soul, I am this whole big I am that I am. Not constantly, even though now we can experience both at the same time, meaning that I can consciously, choose to go into that space within myself, or rather refocus my attention to that space where I feel that I am. And then, but within the human day, it is these so-called little experiences of life, you know, connected, disconnected, loved, unloved, you know, all these kind of things and events that happen. And this is the nectar for the soul. This is the gift that you as a human keep giving to the soul, yourself as a soul. And so this is that love story, isn't it? That in that marriage made in heaven kind of thing, where you continually gift other parts of yourself as a human with all of these experiences, including now this journey of being an awakened, realized human being with all that entails. That is a whole another journey. It's not a completion. You know, like when you realize yourself and you come home for, you know, that's that you feel like, oh my God, this is like a completion of this huge journey of searching and of this hero's journey, you know, and then you come home to yourself within yourself, and then just a whole new life and another journey begins, meaning that now you're just experiencing what it is like to live a soul-filled life and all that it entails, and all of the challenges and all of the wonderful surprises that you get. And this too is a journey. It's a trip. It's a game. It's a play. It's a theater play of your life as well. And so, and within that, we gain new amounts of wisdom. And so you realize that life really isn't, you know, this kind of completion in a way that now the story ends and that's it. What is then after? You know, you are alive, we are all alive, a hope for eternity, basically outside of that time and space as consciousness. And we always have some kind of experiences and stories, and always, because you yourself are creating your own reality. And so you're always asked, or you ask of yourself to play it 100%. And so it's not that's what I meant earlier when I said, you know, you actually become anything but lazy. So then you see that being unawakened with unprocessed emotions, with unconscious, with the, you know, with the shadow self still unconscious, that's what laziness is, you know. But when you are awake, you're anything but lazy in this sense, because you have to continually work with so much. This being a master of self is you're using your 100% of your abilities, because you live within your own creation, you live within your own energy, you live within your own life. And even and every time your abilities go up, so does life challenges go up, but in a very, very different way. You know, the challenges that the way they used to be, were, you know, some were extremely pain causing, cause pain, cause trauma, cause all of these kind of things. But the challenges now, even though they require of me to be a ninja master within my life, you know, with all of these things, they don't cause challenges of life, don't cause pain, but they cause, they affect that I continually come back, whether it's, you know, on certain things, a few weeks, few months, few years on certain things, because there's lots of things going on. When they come to their natural completion, they don't cause pain, but they cause this wonderful satisfaction, this wonderful coming back to self. And when you kind of get that image of the whole picture, and you know why you've done, why certain things have happened, and what was the wisdom within that, why you went on that particular choice, on that particular journey. And then it all comes together, and that story can then beautifully collapse, because being a soul-filled person, you continually have beginnings and endings of everything, of lots of things, certain chapters. There are many chapters within chapters, and this is not something that will ever come to an end, really. It's just life, that's how your life is, that you have lots of things going on, and then certain things come to a completion, another thing begin. And this pretty much is our function or purpose, so to speak, here, is to live, to experience, to enjoy, to get wisdom, to be in this joy, and to utilize all of our abilities. And we have more and more abilities all the time, or we realize more of who we are all the time, like, or what we can do all the time. But then when we realize new talents, new so-called superpowers, new abilities, then they get put to use within your life. And so, as you become more and more able and capable of dealing with your life, and so life then also is in turn also more and more capable and able to match who you are in that moment, and that is just so full on, this feeling of aliveness. It kind of, let's say, for me, it reminds me of looking at, wild animals when they're in that wonderful, energetic, joyful, beautiful, playful, state, or not, perhaps when they're dealing with their own challenges, when they're beaming of health and well-being and joy, regardless of what has happened, before, they able and capable of dealing with the challenges of whatever that they have to deal with. And it's just this kind of pure, thrilling joy of life that you also can feel more and more and more. And it makes you feel more and more alive, more and more present, more and more able and capable, and so on. And so I think we've come to an end today. And I will, for those that are first time, I will send you a link to the recording of this so you can watch again, or for those that perhaps the time is not very convenient in your time zone. But you too are very, very much present, have been with us in this beautiful circle that we created and co-create for Every Soul Vibes. My name is Alexis Sersha, and until next time, thank you very much. Namaste.